Alright, good day everyone. So today we're gonna do another unboxing video, and this time it's gonna be the Hiya Toys Rodan. But before we begin, I'd like to invite everyone to please subscribe to the channel and hit on the notification bell to get the latest updates on the hobbyist. So yeah, let's begin. So this is the Hiya Toys Rodan, and if this hasn't been in your radar yet, it's actually a pretty cool figure based on other people's review. When I first saw this, when it was on pre-order, I kind of noticed that the wings are actually pretty flexible, and that's something that we want to see later on in this review. But before we go on to that, I just want to show you what the box looks like. So this is what the front of the box looks like. So it has a picture of the figure itself, also with the stands, and on the background a snapshot of the movie. So as you may well know, Hiya Toys is is a licensed figure, so they have the copyright rights for the Monsterverse figures, and so far they have been making quite a buzz, and that's because most of their figures are affordable, for a lack of a better term, and they make some awesome cool figures. The only problem is that it doesn't scale well with most of your SH Monster Arts figures, so it's probably gonna be limited to the Monsterverse lines that you have, especially if you have Godzilla. So I guess it will work well with that. But anyway, this is what the front of the box looks like. It's a pretty cool box. So it just has a choking hazard and some branding information, and it came from Godzilla King of the Monsters. That's the movie that was released back in 2019. And at the back of the box, on the sides of the box, really nothing to see. On the back of the box, some manufacturer information, Hiya Toys, how you could contact them, and some branding information, trademark information from Toho, Monsterverse, and Legendary Pictures, and a small snapshot of the figure as well. So without further ado, what we're gonna do next is we are gonna open the box and see what the figure looks like. Okay, so out of the box, this is what we have. So we have the flight stand right here. It's actually reminiscent of what the Gunpla stands are. So it's made of transparent plastic. It's quite thicker than what you're used to seeing with SH Figure Arts or SH Monster Arts, which is pretty good. The only gripe that I have is that all of the joints on this stand are made of the same plastic material. So and since they come with a lot of joints, so you have to really plan how to pose it, because it's not really something that I would call sturdy or rock solid, if you will. I probably won't display Rodan with this stand because yeah, the material for me, I don't really trust it. So also it comes with a couple of eye brackets right here, and these eye brackets are actually used if you have more than one of these. You could connect them together so that you could perform a small diorama with Rodan. The only bummer thing that I also noticed is that when you look at the box, the stand that originally came with Rodan, or at least what they envisioned that they would include with Rodan, is something that has a support cup, if you will, instead of this arm that it came with. I would have preferred I would have preferred both, to be honest. And this actually works if you want to display Rodan on an upright position like this. But if it's gonna support the whole of Rodan's weight, and I've tried it before I did this review, the Rodan tends to slip off because the arm actually tends to give because of Rodan's weight. Anyway, it is what it is. I'm probably not gonna be. I'm probably won't be using this stand anyway if I'm gonna be doing some dioramas. So, yeah. So that's basically everything that I could say about the stand. Now moving on with the figure itself. So this is what the Rodan figure looks like. So it's a nice figure, to be honest. I'm pretty much a fan of what they did right here, and I'm gonna go on and show you what the figure looks like. In terms of sculpt, I really like what Hiya Toys did here. It's really movie accurate. They did some sharp cuts on the wings right there, and that's basically to not hinder the movement on Rodan. But the thing is, it's kind of, you know, showing that it was really cut to fit that contour on Rodan's body. It's something that you could probably miss or probably dismiss, to be honest. But on some poses, especially if you're looking at it from the top, it's very noticeable, if you will. But other than that, the sculpt is really well made. And you could see on the other side as well, they really captured what Rodan looks like in the movie, which is really nice. The head is sculpted really well as well. I love what Hiya Toys did here. And in terms of scale, and I'll put it out right now, it scales really well, and we'll talk about that actually when we get into comparisons with the other figures that we have. Now, in terms of paint application, the thing that I'm pretty much impressed about what Hiya Toys did here is that they actually used some sort of a translucent plastic for Rodan. So it actually is. Let me see if I can show you that. Light passes through on Rodan, as you can see there. Yeah. So instead of like putting in some paint so that it looks like fire Rodan, you could actually shine some light onto the figure, and it is going to show off those impressive orange hue for fire Rodan, which is really cool. If you ask me, I'm really impressed with what Hiya Toys did here. Now, the only gripe that I have with the paint application has to do with some of the details on the face. So there are some paints flying off on Rodan's beak, and there are some, and I feel like they could have done a better job on painting Rodan's eye. Now, there is really a little tolerance on how to paint it, and that's because Rodan's eye is pretty small. But yeah, I feel like the transition between the iris and I mean the eyeball itself is pretty sharp, and that's something that they could have painted better, if you will. Now, on the other parts of the figure, I love what they did here. I love the dry brushing. I love how they painted most of the details. It really pops off and really well painted. There is, if I'm gonna be nitpicking here, on mine at least, there is kind of like a blotch of paint on the right side. Oh, sorry, on the right side of Rodan's wing, and that's kind of a bummer because I could see it from here. But that's really an easy fix if you ask me. Now moving on with the articulation of the figure. So starting off with the head. So the mouth actually opens and closes, and that's basically controlled by a hinge. So as you can see here, yeah, so it's controlled by a hinge. Now on the neck area, so the neck is connected by a ball joint, So there's actually 1, 2, and 3 pieces on the neck. So they are all connected by ball joints. So it could move all the way that far, which is pretty good. So at least Rodan could look down that far and look up that far. It's really good. Now moving on with the shoulders. So the shoulders are also connected by a ball joint. So that goes for both ends. And then there's an ab crunch as well. And that is also connected by a ball joint. So Rodan could actually sway its body back and forth. I mean side to side and then up and down. Although of course it's gonna hinder the movement because of the spine that Rodan has at the back. But overall, that's a pretty good movement and something that we'd love to see to make it more organic. Now moving on with the hips. So the hips are also the legs are connected by a ball joint as well. And then the knees. Actually, the knees are connected by a swivel and hinge combo. So be careful in moving that. So this is a hinge right here. And then there's another hinge on the ankle of Rodan. Now the thing is, something that I was worried about is how it will pose if you want it on a flying position. So since this is a ball joint, you could actually be more creative in posing it. But I know that it's not gonna move as much on the foot because it's a hinge, and it's gonna be hindered by the scope at the back right here. So what you could do is actually pose it on a little bit on the side, right there, which will allow you to have more range of movement on the foot. And so that's basically what Rodan looks like on flying pose. It's not like straight, it's not gonna go all the way straight for you, but yeah, you could actually be a little bit more creative and you could still pull off that pose right there, which is really good. So as you can see from the side, you could even make Rodan look like it's taking off. Just put that out of the way. As you can see, the foot, so it's like Rodan is running. You could also pull that pose off, which is really good. So for me, that works. Now, moving on to the tail as well. So the tail is connected by a ball joint again. So it allows us to move the tail with a wide range of motion, which is really nice. Now, finally, on our favorite part of the review, what everybody's been waiting for is the wing area. So the wings, from the tip of the arm all the way to the end of the wing, at least up to the end, up to this hole right here, there's actually a bendy wire inside. So this is a clever implementation by Hiya Toys. My own, and it's gonna give you like a wide range of motion, no doubt, right? Because it's a bendy wire. So it's gonna give you a wide range of motion. My only problem with bendy wires, it's because it's a wire, over time it's gonna break. And as you can see here, this is just me nitpicking again, you could already see the wire peeking out of those holes. And my problem with bendy wires is that they don't last forever. I mean, they don't last long, especially if you're gonna be playing with this all the time. Then yeah, bendy wires tend to break. Now it does work for Rodan on the flying pose, and especially if you're pretty careful with it, it's not gonna break on you that easily. But the problem is, if you compare this, say, to the NECA figure, wherein Rodan can actually have like the perched pose because the wing folds. So here, if you ask me, I would have preferred that they placed some joints on the arms and allow that pose to happen, and then just put the bendy wire on the end of the wing, because it will still be able to nail this pose, which is something that I would like to see on a flying figure. But I really don't need to see that fluid motion on the arm. So if you ask me how I would implement this, is I would probably just put some ball joints here, or maybe, you know, and cut the wing somewhere, and do the same thing on the wrist, and just put a ball joint there and just cut the wing somewhere. But I would put some bendy wire on the end of the wing here, so that way you could still see some fluid motion when it's flying, but at the same time you don't lose the motion on the arms, especially if you want to pose Rodan on a perched pose, if you will. And probably, you know, just charge a couple more dollars to do that. But for me, that works. And for me, this figure is I mean, don't get me wrong, for the price, this figure is really good. And I like how Hiya Toys implemented their Rodan. Of course, there's always going to be room for improvement. And for me, I'd love to have that perched pose, if you will, of Rodan. And you could basically do it here. I mean, no worries. I mean, you could actually bend the wire, you know, ever so sharply, and do that. But the thing is, since it's a bendy wire again, so every time you're gonna do that perched pose, you actually risk breaking the bendy wire that you have for Rodan. So yeah. So again, that's it for the articulation for this figure. What we're gonna do next is we are going to compare this figure with the other figures that you might have in your collection. Okay, so this is how the Hiya Toys Rodan stack up against the NECA Rodan. So this is the only one I have. I don't have the SH Monster Arts one because I feel like I'm not gonna get too many of those Rodans. But anyway, it's quite bigger compared to the NECA figure. Now, the Hiya Toys Rodan wingspan is around 15.5 inches long, while the NECA Rodan is around 13 inches long. And in terms of height, so the NECA Rodan stands at around 4 inches long, while the Hiya Toys Rodan is around 5.5 inches long. So they're quite around 2.5 inches apart of each other in terms of scale. Now, again, something that, since the figure is already here, as you can see on the perched pose going back, so this Rodan actually could fold its wings, and it's connected by a swivel and hinge so that it could actually pull off a perched pose for the figure. Whereas for the Hiya Toys, you have to really stress the bendy wire in order to do a pose like this. So again, if I were to implement my own Rodan figure, I would probably cut the wing the same way as how NECA did it, and you know, on a flying pose, you're probably not gonna miss having those joint marks, if you will. But yeah, it is what it is. So anyway, that's a size comparison that we have for the Hiya Toys Rodan. So again, it scales well with the other Hiya Toys figures, but for the SH Monster Arts or NECA figures, it's probably not gonna scale the same way. So yeah. Okay, so my final thoughts about this figure. It's an awesome figure. It's a bang for the buck. It costs around $45 here in the Philippines, so that's right around 2,500, which is really good, especially for the figure that you're getting. It scales really well with the Hiya Toys Godzilla, which I mentioned earlier is a perfect scale for the Monsterverse Godzilla. It's probably not gonna scale well with the other figures that you have for SH Monster Arts, so I didn't bother really showing them here. Anyway, it's an awesome build. It's an awesome sculpt. The paint application for the most part is really good. The articulation for the most part is also really good, especially if you're into most of those flying poses. So this figure is a real real steal, if you will, for the price. Now, I'm not really a fan of the stand. Not that I'm gonna use it, but for some collectors out there, I'm pretty sure they're probably gonna, you know, use the stand. So be careful with that one. It does tend to slip off because it's not really the best stand in the world. But anyway, in terms of paint application, for the most part, it's also really good. So yeah, so for the price, I would suggest that you get it. Now, what I like about Hiya Toys in general is that they listen to what us collectors think about their figures, and they actually, you know, improve their figures over time. So we've seen that with their Godzilla figure, and I think they're gonna be releasing a new one with the updated articulation on their next release, which is thumbs up for them for doing that. Not all manufacturers do that, and I know it's gonna be really expensive for the brand to do something like that. So kudos to Hiya Toys for that one. Anyway, yeah, so it's an awesome figure. I hope that they improve it. I hope that they could, you know, pull off a better perched pose, if you will, for Hiya Toys Rodan. So anyway, I guess that's it for our review. If you haven't done so already, please subscribe to the channel, and you could also support us by being a member of the channel. So for a cup of coffee, for a small amount, could actually help us make some more of these awesome reviews and custom figures for you guys. So I hope that you become a member of The Hobbyist. You could also check us out on Facebook, The Hobbyist. We are also available on our Instagram account, _hobbyist. So yeah, I guess that's it for me, folks. Again, thank you guys for watching this video, and thank you for supporting our channel, and I will see you guys soon. Peace.